Good question.
Not just better human beings, but also how to be a better citizen. So the way well-being can improve education today is to bring in a new paradigm. Yes, hi. So I'm Arthur SAGOT-DUVAUROUX. I'm an investment officer at the Fund for Innovation in Development. So my job is basically to try and find solutions to the new big questions when it comes to poverty. When I say find solutions, I really don't do that much. I receive a lot of solutions and I try to identify which ones are the most promising. Empathy. So I've always struggled with empathy myself. I'm still struggling. It's always been difficult for me to feel the way others feel. And so whenever someone was sad, happy, angry in front of me, it's always been difficult. But having a kid now, it's still difficult for me to feel empathy, but I can better understand what my feelings, how my feelings have an impact on the others. And so trying to better express my feelings, not suppress them, but better express, better control how I'm sort of delivering that energy on others that do feel empathy a bit more than I do. Yes, I do. I think the way well-being can improve education today is to bring in a new paradigm. To me, there's been like big shifts. It's been like the quantity of education, trying to bring as many kids to schools, opening more schools, finding more teachers, etc., which was a first big leap. And there's the quality of education movements which came in to improve the quality of teachers, of pedagogy, of curriculum, etc. Well-being, I believe, could bring a new paradigm on the ability of children to learn, which I think we haven't been enough talking about. So what Labia is doing right now, I think is very mind-shifting, not just in India, like everywhere in the world. I think there's really an important solution to think about, not specifically on how it's being done here, but more on what problem it is trying to address. In the long term, something that we've been discussing this week with the government on Tripura is to be better human beings. I think it's very important. We've seen, the history of mankind has shown that it's not natural to be good human beings. And so investing in this instead of just technical skills, trying to understand how to make sure that the next generation is acting better towards themselves, towards other human beings, but also other livings, the planet, the environment, etc. I think is something that we need to focus more in the education system and very early on. Something that I find interesting to discuss too is not just better human beings, but also how to be a better citizen. So there is a lot that goes around, knowing how to vote, knowing what are your rights, what are your duties also as citizen, why do you have those, etc. And I think it's also an important investment that needs to be done very early on, because at least in my generation, we tend to discover what needs to be done when you're 20 years old, and it's somehow already too late for a few things. So investing in this, I think, is very important. So education is an investment, is a long-term investment. It's not that important how the child will be when he's 6 years old compared to 4. What you're really investing in is future, like potential future adults, citizens, etc. And so it's a really long-term investment, and it's a big bet if we're honest. especially when it goes through public schools, like it comes from public funding, taxpayers' money. Knowing exactly what's the right thing to do now so that it has an impact 20, 25, 30, 35 years later is difficult. And it's the kind of bet that in any other sector we almost would never be willing to do. We're doing it, it's important to do it. But so having more evidence on what is the best bet to make. So it's not just a leap of faith, but like really knowing these are the programs that we know 25 years later are going to work. I think it's very important to dig further into the evidence and in education for that. The government is always going to be the first investor in education. So to me, it just makes sense that it's from them. In my mind, at least, it's very important that it comes from a public service kind of space. And so that education strategies are based on what the general population thinks and not, maybe a private sector specific priorities. So that's why I believe like the government has a very specific mandate on this to try and advance education policies. An absolute delight. Honestly, it's been 2 years, I think we're working together, and very easy team to work with, really driven by the impact that they want to have. I think has always been the mantra, I want to say, all along the discussions. Solutions oriented, always trying to find a solution and not just telling me there's a problem, what do we do? Like always coming up with solutions at the same time as the problem comes up. Very open discussions, very easy to move forward. So yeah, dynamic and honestly ideal team to work with. I think in Tripura, what really stayed with me is the excitement of the mothers when we were talking about the program. I don't think we would have seen this excitement if we had the same question about maths and literacy and any other curriculum that their kids might have been learning at school. The excitement in their face, the way they felt it was improving their children's lives in their day-to-day lives, not just at school, but also outside of schools, was really, really amazing to watch. Yeah, I mean, I already said around this, I think it's bringing in this new paradigm of looking at education another way, looking at why there are still like those big barriers around education that haven't been lifted, and so thinking sort of out of the box and trying to tackle it from another angle, I think is what stood out to me. And so I think for the future of Labia, for me, it's not so much about how many children in India you're going to be able to reach in the next few years, etc. It's more how this new vision around education can like start being replicated in many different ways in many different contexts. I don't believe that this program would work in a lot of other contexts, but that I definitely believe that this issue exists everywhere, and that finding different ways of tackling this issue is what Labia's work, 20 years from now should be proud of. Big question. Probably less anxiety around their future. I feel like recently it's picked up again. I'm under the impression that 10 years ago we would say children are so innocent, they don't realize what's going on, their lives are perfect, I wish I was a child again. And I'm not sure we would say that again today. I feel like this awareness of the general problems in the world has increased again, and trying to get back to a world where we see childhood as this almost paradise-like world is something that I would hope for